Oh God, I can't sleep. Then it's time for you to come into the Insomnia Hour. Hello, my insomniacs. It is I, Sasha George, your sensuous voice on the airway, here to bring you another incredible interview. Dylan Garcia, who has come a long way, is here to tell us about his trials and tribulations and success, all for us. What a guy! Let's get to it.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. So glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I find you very intriguing because I was reading your bio, shamefully. And, I always ask people how they start in their music life. And I read that, your father and your grandfather were your inspiration, and how did they inspire you from this journey from your younger life to your present life?
Oh, well, I always, for a short, I was always staying with my grandpa. My parents were, I believe 23 years old when they had me. And so I was always around my grandpa, and I remember my grandpa and my father are very big influences in my life. But my grandpa used to pick me up from preschool, and my grandpa was a really hard worker. He worked in the fields, driving the trucks, and he would bring the porta potties to the fields where the migrant workers were working. And he was always around, you know. It was always like hanging out with my grandpa was like this huge thing, you know. And my grandpa was also a decorated Korean War hero back from the Korea War. And my grandpa had
he
these,
was
like,
disciplined then.
He had these ideals that I picked up from him as a little kid. Like when I would stay the night with my grandparents' house, you know, and I'd stay with my grandpa, you know, we would always say get on our knees and say prayers at night when we go to bed, and we'd say prayers in the morning. But when you're that young, you really don't understand it. But as I grew older, I understood, like, my grandpa had this obedience in life, you know, and now I understand it, like this, I don't want to say routine, but his, like, ritual that he did where he'd pray. And then, you know, the more I got older, he would tell me some of the stories of some of the things that had happened when he was in the Korean War. My grandpa got drafted when he was only, he got shipped off to war. He was only 19 years old, I want to say.
Oh, my goodness.
And I think, like, I mean,
that's a big responsibility for a 19-year-old.
And it could be traumatic. You know, I'll tell you the story. My grandma was pregnant with, it was either my Uncle Bob or my Aunt Terry, and he went AWOL after boot camp just so he can come back home and see his family. And grandma, before he got shipped off to war, and he got court-martialed. And when he finally turned himself in, you know, he had talked to a colonel. And my grandma told me, he said, "I know I'm going to die, so I wanted to see my family one last time."
That is so spiritual. That is a spiritual connection. Like, he comprehensively knew.
It was like him and a couple other guys. You know, I'm from Oxnard, California, and there was a couple other guys, his buddies. You know, they all got drafted together, so they all came back to see their women, see their kids and stuff like that before they were going to get shipped off. I mean, I can't even imagine being 19 years old and being faced with something like that. So something that it's life-changing, because, I mean, you're experiencing death and mortality, but at the same time, you just want to survive and get home to your family. Like,
it's like a responsibility and love at the same time.
Exactly.
Which, I'm curious, because of this influence, your grandfather, clearly he's a major one. He gave you strength as a personality. Why is it he always called you obsessed with music? Did you guys play music together, or were you just listening to his stories? And
he called it an obsession, because I've been diving into this music career for a long time.
But what inspired you? Was it a song? It was pots and pans and the.
Well, when I was hanging out with my dad, you know, when I was hanging out with my dad, that was a whole other experience. Like, man, this is my dad, you know, and my dad's one of those dads that knows everything, you know, the person you can go to advice to, you know, he's a solid stand-up gentleman. And when he had this routine on Fridays, he'd always wash the cars when he got off work, and he'd be listening to the radio station from UC Santa Barbara, KCSB, and they'd always play like these old school jams. You know, I'm talking like the songs from the 70s. My dad was a lowrider, and so my dad, you know, songs that you could cruise to. And it was just like, music was never hidden from me. Like, my dad had his record collection. You know, my dad had really iconic record collection of, like, he'd have like a vinyl of Sade, but he also had vinyls of Santana. He had vinyls of El Chicano.
I love Santana. Oh my God, yes.
There was El Chicano in the mix. There was, there was just these really great bands that he listened to, and I just fell in love with music. Like, when I would say I was about 6 or 7 years old, you know, I was really addicted to, like, the Babyface album. So I love
that. He's a really inspiration. So, I mean, he produced and he wrote, so that's a good person to look off of.
And I would perform, like, I had a little toy microphone, and I would perform in front of the neighbors when they'd get together. I'd be performing these, like, R&B slow jams.
Did you get, like, elaborate, like, stages and stuff?
No, it was just... It was just like one of those play school microphones. I think I had a little radio that had a microphone connected to it, and it was just something that was just inside of me that I just wanted to perform and sing, because it's, for me, it was like salvation, like being able to sing and get it out. Like, I'm telling you, like, when I'm performing and I'm locked in, like, I'm really locked in. I'm engaging with the crowd, and I'm locked in. I'm putting on a good performance. And I'm really focused. And so it doesn't hit me until afterwards, like, how the concert went, when I can see the footage, because I always live stream it on Facebook. And so when I can see the footage back, and it just blows my mind when I see myself, it blows my mind, because it's like, holy moly, like, that's me, right? That's me. Like, oh man, that looks so cool.
And people aren't engaging, and, I can't even imagine. I think it's so honorable. I mean, that you could do that. It's bravery that you can just put yourself out there. And just like I was reading, you also were writing poetry. So you were always very creative.
Yeah, I started writing poetry in like 6th grade.
What?
I had a girlfriend.
Oh,
and,
that's it. Everybody knows now.
I had a girlfriend back then, and I wanted to write poetry. I just felt like, okay, this is the first time I'm going to actually, where it makes sense, where, like, I've always felt that it's important to express yourself.
Right.
And for me, it was writing words down on paper. I never shared any of this stuff with my parents. This was just my own thing, because for me, see, with my grandfather, so growing up, it was, they wanted me to go to West Point, the military academy for the United States Army. They wanted to go, because, and I really dedicated myself to the process. Like, I had to start when I was a sophomore in high school, where you put it out there, you write to the military academy, you apply for them, and then when you start getting more involved, like, by the time when I was, 16 years old, I'm sitting at the congressman's office meeting with, like, colonels from the Marines and captains from the Army, and I was only 16, and to be able to hold myself with enough composure to be in those kind of situations at a young age, that's why I got accepted. And that was the plan. My grandpa's like, no, you're going to West Point, because I always got good grades in school. I always listened to my parents. I wasn't getting in trouble. My parents were very, I don't want to say strict, my parents were stern. Because if I messed up, my dad was going to let me know, and there was 9 times out of 10 my dad was going to catch me if I was doing something.
Right.
My dad would always say, you can fool everybody, but you can't fool your dad, And that's just the kind of raising that I got as a kid, and I'm so grateful for it. I look back, and, you're young, and you don't understand it, but I look back, and I'm like, man, those lessons that I've learned and those things that I learned as a kid translated to when I was adult to be responsible and take care of stuff. And don't get me wrong, my adult life became a lot tougher, because that's when these feelings that I would deal with mentally, these things that I was dealing with mentally, just started getting worse and worse, because it was.
I read this about you. When did you notice that there was differentiation in your life? Like,
Probably when I moved away to go to college, as I went to UC Irvine. So I went to junior college for 1 year, and because I had good grades in high school and I had good grades in college, I was able to transfer as a sophomore. Mm-hmm. And I think really being out on my own, but I had always experienced things since I was a little kid.
Right.
I had these like weird, obsessive, compulsive things that I would do because I was afraid that I was going to make my parents upset. Like just weird things, like if I turned, no, it was like something like as simple as making sure I turned off the light. Like I would check the light switch, even though it was off. I would check the light switch and put my hand on it and like confirm like 3 to 5 times. Okay, the light is off, and then I can go on my day.
Oh,
like
okay.
Really,
like an obsession compulsion.
Yeah, like it was really weird, and but you're young, so you don't talk about these things. You just think it's normal,
right?
And that's a part of it. Like when you're living. Like with things that I have, like now at this point in my life, I can catch myself when I'm feeling uncomfortable or I'm feeling something, I can catch myself and tell myself, like, you're tripping, it's okay, you're good. And I've learned to be able to talk myself out of these mental escapes that I go on. But it was, you know, there were some spiritual things that would go on, you know, stuff in the house, like just things, you know, and it just progressed. It just progressed. Like, it happened a lot when I was a kid, and then it progressed. Like, once I got to college, when I was on my own and feeling that freedom, you know, but still in the back of my mind, I have my dad being, you know, strict with me in the back of my mind, like, don't do this, be good, you know, make sure you don't screw up, go the right direction. And you know, I was pledging for a fraternity when I first started going to Irvine.
Oh my goodness! Did you have to do something weird?
Well, we were doing a lot of things, you know, and I was working. See, I had to work while I was in college. I couldn't just go to school, and my parents, you know, I had to work, and my parents.
You wrote about 2 jobs, and
my parents would had a set budget that they would give me, like, okay, we're gonna give you a couple $100 a month, and you should be good. But the rest I had to come up with, you know, and I had a loan to go to school, so I would work to pay for my books, and the only thing the loan paid for, you know, the student loan only paid for my tuition.
Right.
And that was it. So, I mean, I had to work to pay rent, I had to work to eat, I had to work to live while I was going to school. And I mean, I enjoyed school, I enjoyed studying, I enjoyed learning. So, I mean, I was stacking myself with, like, you know, 4 classes every quarter. And when I transferred out there, see, I had taken summer school in junior college, so when I transferred to UC Irvine, I had enough units where even though I was transferring as a sophomore, I could be considered a junior because I had so many classes done.
Oh.
And so
you're advanced.
And when it came to my senior year, I had the option. So I had enough. All I had to do was take 1 more class, and I was done with school. And this was coming into the second quarter of the year, because the UC Irvine was on a quarter system, so we'd have fall, winter, and spring. So I had either the winter or the come back in the spring to finish my school, and so I took the winter quarter off, and I withdrew from school.
Is this when you had your guitar? I mean,
I was already starting to play guitar. I went to the North Shore of Oahu to go surfing because I was competing while I was in college. So I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school. I got out of the pledging thing with the fraternity because it was just too much. It was.
I agree.
It was just like, you know, I don't want to bash them because I still have friends to this
some people.
day.
I think artistic empaths. It would just be too.
Yeah, it was too much. I didn't think they get it, and there was just too many different personalities. And I know you got to blend in. You become this brotherhood and all this stuff like that. But I've always rolled as a solo kind of dude. I've always been kind of a loner. I've never really had that many friends. You know, I think wasn't.
It's because your mind is so powered with creativity, so it's really hard to socialize sometimes.
And when I was going to school, so at 19 was when I bought my guitar, and it was a New Year's Eve. No, I didn't have my babe, awesome. My babe. You know, this woman had done, you know, this when I went to school, so I got out of the fraternity, and then when I got out of the fraternity, this young woman that I was dating was like, "Well, you're out of the fraternity. Like, what do you got to show for? Like, you know, like I would still stay with you, or if you were in the fraternity." I'm like, "Well, you know what? I don't." And she called me and she says, "You know what? I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm breaking up with you." And this was on New Year's Eve, so we had dated pretty much the whole beginning of school. I had a girlfriend, and so she dumped me, and I'm bawling my eyes out in my car because I was away at school. I was alone. You know, I really dedicated a lot of my time to this girl that I was dating, and she just breaks my heart, and I was devastated. And then I called my friend and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go buy a guitar." And the Guitar Center
had a great outlet. I think it was perfect.
The Guitar Center had just opened up. My friend took me. I went there. I bought a really nice guitar, and that was my mission. Okay, I'm going to write music. I'm going to put my poetry in the music and write about being heartbroken. You know?
I love it. You need fuel, and that's the best fuel.
And it was like, you know, surfing, like bodyboarding and competing and traveling up and down the California coast when we had contests, you know, and competing and surf culture just really, really intrigued me because the West Point thing didn't happen. I didn't doubt that I couldn't get into West Point like about 3 weeks before I was supposed to ship out.
Right.
I took the SAT 10 times. They wanted me to get 1,000, and the highest score I got the last time I took the test was a 990. So they said we can't let you in. We granted, we gave you a favor to only have to score 1,000 because we want you that much, but you didn't score what we needed. So maybe try next year. And with that, I had no backup plan.
Oh, you went from this girlfriend who tore your heart out, your sole goal blocked, and all you had is Babe.
That's all I had was the guitar.
Yeah.
And my roommate in college, he would go home. He didn't live far from, his family didn't live far from the campus, so I was always alone in the dorm room. So I was always just playing guitar, listening to music and playing guitar. And it took a long time because nobody really showed me anything. My buddy Derek just showed me how to play a bar chord, and he said, you learn how to play that, you'll learn to be able to play the guitar. So I just learned from one bar chord and just figured it out,
So did you do a lot of solo until like 2009 when you started and met Ronnie King?
Yeah, well, so in that time, so I was jamming a lot of times around campus. I would sit around campus and just play guitar. And it was always like, I liked these bands like Saves the Day and the Get Up Kids, Newfound Glory. I was really into this like punk scene that was going on when I was going to school. I just wanted to be a part of it. And as time progressed, I started just writing my own style of music, and then my next girlfriend was just like, we just call it, Abel music, that's Abel's kind of music because it didn't really fit in, and listening to Sublime, I started learning how to play that reggae, the kick it on guitar, and my roommate actually had shown me how to do that on guitar. That was one of the things he taught me how to do on guitar, to play that reggae, the up, the up, down, up, strum.
Is reggae your soul? Like that's where you feel you're at?
Honestly, I just wanted to do music like that because I just wanted to be like Sublime, who didn't want to be like Sublime. I had the poster of Bradley Noel in my dorm room, and, so it just progressed. And then when I graduated college, I was still playing guitar, but I was working, and then it wasn't until I moved down to San Diego. So this is about 2004. In 2004, I moved down to San Diego, and I'd met some people, some of my friends that are still friends to this day, and my friend was a rapper. And, I had never been around anything like that before back then. I was about 20.
It was a culture shock.
Yeah, I mean, moving, because I lived in Orange County, then I moved down, I went to Hawaii for the winter. I went to Hawaii several times, and then I ended up going down to San Diego, and I had a place to stay at, and so I was just like, it felt like I was back at college again. But I met my buddy because we were partying. I was living with my friends that were going to school at San Diego State, so it's like I graduated from Irvine, and the next year I'm out there in San Diego State partying, and I met my friend Bernard. And the honest truth was what rang in my head was this, like, man, well, this guy ain't no smarter than me. I could do this shit myself. Excuse my language. I could do this shit too, And with that, I was like, and I'm living in San Diego. I'm wearing these flashy clothes now and standing out. And I was like, I was still playing. I always play guitar, but I was like writing rap songs. Of course, when you start writing music, you're terrible. You don't just wake up one day and become Bob Dylan.
Oh, come on.
And it was really the inspiration of my friend, where it was like, man, I could do this shit too. And with that, that's what really motivated me. Like, wait a minute, I want to get into music.
Yeah.
Like, I was working in banking. I was doing mortgage loans at the time. I was working for Downey Savings down in San Diego, and it was just like, man, like all these emotions that I had as a kid, and all these emotions of like wanting to to express myself, but with music all came in like, wait a minute, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, maybe
I'm glad you took that road.
maybe the guitar isn't something I just jam to, like, you know, the guy in the dorm room jamming guitar. Like maybe this is what I'm supposed to do, because I was terrible at jobs. I was terrible at jobs. Not that I wasn't a hard worker, because I always was a hard worker. It just was difficult getting around with all the different personalities, especially with management. And that's why if I had a job, it was always something that I could do on my own, and I'd have to didn't have to work with a lot of people. As I'm a good people person, so when I was in the mortgage business, I was really successful because, you know, talking with people and meeting people, you know, and I believe, you know, I feel like I got a great aura and a great vibe about me, like people gravitate towards me.
Yeah, you're a very charismatic person. I love it.
So then it was just like, okay, we're going to do this music thing. So this was around 2004, and I just kept at it. You know, I just kept writing songs, showing my friends, hey, check this out. And I had some friends, you know, oh man, it's so dope, like you're so dope, you know. And you know, that stuff just gave me motivation to do it, you know. And it wasn't about like I want to be the biggest star in the world. It was just like, man, I just want to express myself, and if people want to hear it, great.
Right. So this led you to start working with professionals? Like, when did you really step into that limelight?
So it was 2009. So in 2008, I was living on my cousin's couch. I was working a job doing heating and air conditioning on commercial buildings. I was doing this technical computer science kind of stuff, like hooking up commercial buildings air conditioning systems where they can control everything from a computer. So I was learning about all this stuff, how to wire up buildings, how to do all this stuff. But then, see, I told my cousin the job that I had, the guy offered me, he said, you know what, I was in Oxnard. He said, I'll move you to Orange County. Come stay with me. We'll see if we get along good. And I'll basically relocate you to Newport Beach, is what he said. So who wouldn't, if I'm living on a couch and this guy's telling me he's going to get me an apartment and everything, who wouldn't leave? Who wouldn't go for it?
Right.
And at that time, I was playing some shows. I was playing some shows at the local bars here down by the beach in Oxnard, and playing some shows. And when this opportunity came up to move to Newport Beach, I told my cousin, the cousin I was living with, my cousin Andre, I told him, I said, you know what? I'm going to move to Newport Beach. I'm going to form a band, and I'm going to get a record deal. And so I was able, it just all manifested greatly because I had musician friends from high school, and I just was like, hey, my buddy lived down in San Diego, Richard, and he said, you know, come on down. I got a studio. Let's do some stuff. And we formed the band. And next thing I know, we're playing shows in Huntington Beach. We played some shows like at the spot in Fullerton, the Slide Bar. We were doing some shows. We played.
Love that place.
We did the Battle of the Band for the Warped Tour at Slide Bar. And the people were just, it was amazing because like there were so many new people that when they would watch us play, it was just like, man, I love your music. You know, there's something different about you. And we placed third. They ended up giving us studio time at California Sound Studios.
How was it your first time in that studio?
Well, it was crazy the way everything happened because so we had a show booked on Friday. We had the recording studio on Saturday, and then I had got hit up last minute if we'd play Saturday night. And I was like, man, this is like really rock star. Like, we're just getting shows. Like, this is rock star. So my buddy shows up, the drummer, he played the cajon. I'm like, hey, dude, I just booked us another show for Saturday night. And he got he must have really been in a bad mood because he was like, man, you're booking too many shows, blah, blah, blah. And he really pissed me off. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, we got a show tonight. You're fighting with me because we got another show. Like, what's the deal? And with that whole vibe,
keep up with you.
And with that vibe, my buddy Richard comes because he played bass. He shows up, and I tell him, like, hey, this is going on right now. And this is your boy, our drummer, is your boy. He's telling me he's not feeling it. So we go play the show. Afterwards, to me, it wasn't our best show because I had already felt dissed. I'd already felt like, man, I thought we were all in this together, and it was really like the realization, like, wait, man, you're on your own because like you said, a lot of people can't keep up with you.
Right.
And so we played that show. We all got back to my apartment, and I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but because they said, oh yeah, we're gonna play. Well, we're down to play Saturday. We're down to play Saturday too. And I was like, you know what? After all this that happened before the show, that was our last show. I'm not playing with you guys anymore.
Was that hard on you?
Yeah, because I really thought we were in it, and it was kind of like you gave me the impression that, we're just kind of backing you up. We're just filling in. We ain't part of your band. And I was like, well, why the hell are we doing it then? So I ended up going. I went to the recording studio by myself, and that next day showed up right there at 11. Had my dog with me, Tahoe, and went in and. They said, well, do you got any idea to what you're going to do? And I said, honestly, this is the first time I've ever been in a studio like this. And I can play and we can record some songs. I got no problem with that. So they just hit record. I was in the booth with my acoustic guitar. I belted out like 4 songs. And these guys were just, these guys at the studio, and I'm not trying to say it, like these guys at the studio were just like, holy shit, who is this dude? And
you were ready.
And then next thing I know, see how I got all in the scene. So I'm going to give my buddy a shout out because I have a guy named Drew, and I don't know how to say his last name correctly. I used to call him Gurgis, but I think it's Gugwe. He's an Egyptian guy. He found my music on MySpace.
Thank you, Drew.
And he was the one that plugged me with these shows. He introduced me to the main promoter out in Orange County. I met him, showed him some music. And he was just like, dude, we can get you guys playing right away. So that's why things were happening. Like I was just this whole brand new force coming into the music scene. And there's a big scene in Orange County with the music.
I can feel it in your voice.
And so Drew found my music, and that's how I got plugged in. And forever, like, man, it's like, I don't even think he's even involved with music anymore, but he just found my music and introduced me to the right people. So we played all these shows. I go to the recording studio. A couple weeks later, he says, hey, dude, there's this producer working at the studio you're working at named Ronnie King.
Ronnie.
And so all of a sudden, I hear the name Ronnie King. And that name just itself catches your attention. Like Ronnie King.
Yeah,
People are like,
empowering.
People are like, Rodney King. I'm like, no, not Rodney King. This guy's white, man. Ronnie King.
Right?
So I'm really getting involved. I'm working this job, doing this computer stuff with his air conditioning. See, the owner, my boss, his son was in a band that had went on tour, so he understood the grind.
Right.
And I told him, I said, look, man, I need some time off. I'm going to go meet this producer, Ronnie King. And I had Googled the shit out of Ronnie, looking up, what he's done. I'm like, Tupac and all these names. I'm like, man, this is like... But see, at that time, I was still my bipolar was kind of picking up. My bipolar stuff, these I was having these like.
When were you diagnosed?
Not until about in October of 2009. So what area I'm talking right now about around July, August, and then I met Ronnie in September. I met Ronnie in September, or it would have been August. And so I scheduled a meeting. I called the owner of the record label, said, hey, I want to meet Ronnie King. Oh, you want to meet Ronnie? Yeah, I want to meet Ronnie. He's like, okay, we'll set this date. We got you. So they locked me in. I took the day off from work. I show up to the studio. Nobody's there. And wait a minute.
My God.
Did I just get stood up? Like, I took the day off from work, drove my ass all the way out to your studio, which is way deep in Lake Forest, and Ronnie's not here. So then I call them again. They had completely forgot about me. I think Ronnie might have been golfing or something. I don't know. It was all the owner of the record label's fault. And so I finally set it up. I meet with Ronnie the following day.
What was your first impression?
Well, there's a little backstory with this. So
backstory, yes.
When I was on my way to meet Ronnie, I was listening to the song by John B. and Tupac, Are You Still Down?
Right.
So I'm listening to that song. It was on a cassette tape, a dubbed cassette tape. You know what I mean? I copied the John B. album to a little, one of those cassette tapes, and I had it in my truck. I was driving a I don't know, it was 1992, it was a rodeo, so, still had tape deck. And listening to that, I pull up to the studio, I get off the car, walk into the recording studio. Now, it's already been, maybe a month and a half since I'd been there the last time when I first went there. So I'm walking in. The first thing I see as I walk through the door is the multi-platinum plaque for John B. and Tupac, Are You Still Down? So the song I was listening to, not knowing that Ronnie was on it, I saw that plaque as I walked into the studio.
That
so I walk in.
To bring you to your knees.
That was like, wait a minute, what is this? Like, and I was really like, I had finished, in that time I finished like the book, The Power of Now. I had finished The Law of Attraction. So manifestation and all that stuff was making sense to me. It was really
helping you. Mm-hmm.
And so I meet Ronnie. Ronnie comes out of this office. The moment he walked out of the office, I already knew it was him. He had some like green or red Doc Martens on, he was dressed all punk rock. I'll never forget the shoes. I'll never forget the shoes that he was wearing. And I knew right away, this has got to be Ronnie. So I'm like, hey, Ronnie, dude, are you Ronnie King? And he's like, yeah, man, what's up, dude? Calm down. I said, you don't understand, dude. I was just listening to this song right now. And I kept rewinding the song because I was listening to that song because I was super nervous. And that was my go-to song at that time. So Ronnie's just like, wait a minute, what? You were listening to this song? Nobody listens to music from the 90s anymore. Man, that era's dead. I said, dude, come with me right now. I'm going to show you. You don't believe me. So we walk outside. I got my dog in the car waiting, and so I had a breathalyzer in my car from some DUIs that I got years before. So Ronnie comes. I'm hitting the breathalyzer to start my car, and he's just looking at me like, dude, who is this guy? Like, he's got a breathalyzer to start his car? So I turn on the car, the song starts playing, and he's all of a sudden starts tripping, like, wait a minute, dude, you weren't lying. And I was like, yeah, man, this is crazy. And he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Oxnard. Dude, I know Oxnard. Oxnard's got the hood, and, Ronnie's been to all the hoods with all the rappers, so
right.
It just happened. It was just a moment that just happened.
Right.
So we go to his studio, we go to the office, me and him start jamming. So I start playing some songs, and back then I was just writing songs to write songs. It wasn't like where it was strategically writing songs. So Ronnie's like, man, we can't have no cuss words, man. We're going for the radio, And but there was one song that I played and we jammed, and I had never played with anyone playing keys before, and at least at the level with Ronnie, and it just blew my mind. I wanted to start crying.
Right?
I want to start crying. Like, I can't believe this is my music. Like, this is possible. Like, this is possible to make the music sound this good, because I'm just playing acoustic guitar all the time,
Right. So to have that addition, it was just like being French kissed, but not.
And Ronnie, and so Ronnie says, yeah, dude, you know what? I like you, man. Let's work together.
That is amazing.
So I start leaping to the sky, pumping my fist if I won American Idol or something, And
you play Rocky.
So he goes, talk to Nathan. Nathan was the owner of the studio, the owner and director. He said, talk to Nathan, set it up. So I'm outside jumping for joy, and Ronnie's like, man, calm down, keep it gangster, dog, calm down. This is a moment in my life that I will never forget, about this moment, how we met. And so I go to talk with Nathan, and then here comes the bomb that gets dropped. The bomb's coming. Nathan says, yeah, well, we can set it up, man, but it's going to be $1,000. And back then, I was paying my rent.
That's a lot.
That was a lot of money. Now, $1,000 back then is, I would say, equivalent to like 2 or 3 now,
Right.
And so I'm just heartbroken because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, because I wasn't making enough money where I was working to live. So I wasn't making enough money to do anything, to save anything up. So I was like, well, I guess, I'm crushed. I guess this isn't going to happen. That wasn't meant to be. And so a couple, maybe about a month goes by, and, I'm still thinking about it. I think I might have texted Ronnie a couple times, just like super stoked, but super bummed at the same time. Like, man, I can't be this crushed, It sucks when you can't do something because of money.
Right.
And so I met this woman.
Especially when you're pumped with so many compliments and you're feeling optimistic and you can do it, but you're hindered.
I'm hindered because of money,
Yeah.
So I was living at this big apartment complex in Newport Beach by Back Bay, and I was living there. Really popular complex with young people. It was like huge apartment complex. There was always things going on, pool parties. Like, you know, I made some really cool long-term like friends that are still friends to this day when I lived there. And I had met this woman. You know, my dog was the woman getter. You know, my dog Tahoe, she was like a yellow lab, so she got all the attention. Oh, I love your dog. Oh, your dog, because she was so friendly, and that was like the conversation starter with all these people that I met. And it happened to run into this woman in the laundry room, and my dog went by, said what's up, and I told her hello, and we talked a little bit, and I didn't see her for a few weeks, and I see this woman again as she's getting off work with some groceries, and I was getting ready to go for a run because I just found out I got a clothing sponsor. And so I was really stoked. You know, my way of celebrating back then was like, okay, I'm really stoked. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to go run 5 miles. I was like, I'm going to go run 5 miles to go celebrate. And I made a plan. I said, hey, when I get back running, do you want to hang out? You said you don't work tomorrow, but let's hang out.
Right.
And I had happened to have the day off too. So we ended up connecting after I went running. We connected that night. We hung out. We're just talking, getting to know each other. And I bring it up, but that I'm in this situation like, hey, I have a chance to really blow up, but I can't do it because of money. And we were just talking about this. And you know what she said? You're telling me you can't pursue your dream just like I'm telling you. You can't tell me you can't pursue your dream because of money. Like, that's the worst. And she just says, you know what? I believe in you. I will give you $1,000 so you can go work with Ronnie.
Oh my God! Tell me that was your wife, your future wife.
That is actually my son's mother.
Oh.
She believed in me from the start.
That is amazing.
So it was like I got this blessing to make it happen. I called the studio, hey, I got the money, dude. Let's lock it, you know. And I remember, like, I felt like a king. I felt like the king because not only did I have, you know, and I had my cousin that I lived on his couch. He came to Orange County and was like, dude, we're going into the studio to work with Ronnie King. And show up to the studio that day, and I didn't know, I'd never I'd never been in a situation like that. So I'm outside smoking a cigarette, and Ronnie's talking to my cousin inside, and he's like, well, man, you know, we got to work. What song are we going to do? Like, what's the song, you know? What's the song? We're all here. What's the song we're going to do? Well, my cousin tells him, hey, well, he's got this song that says, when the tide gets high, I get low. And when the tide gets low, I get high. And Ronnie said, dude, that is brilliant. So they come outside and they get me. And he was like, show him on the guitar. My cousin was just, play the song, because it was originally called Rebel Music. Play the song. Right. And I played it, and Ronnie was like, dude, this is the song. Let's get to work. You know.
So did he bring other people in when you guys were producing it? Was it just you and Ronnie?
It was just me and Ronnie. But then, see, they were tripping because I was able to play to a click track. Well, it wasn't a click track. They gave me a shaker so I could play in time. And I knocked out within 15 minutes. You know, it just really felt like, man, I'm meant to be here. This was what my life is all about. I was meant to be here. So I think that's why I picked up so fast. So then Ronnie is like playing piano and doing all these things, and I'm just vibing. Like, when Ronnie was playing the piano, I was out in the room with him where the piano was, and he's playing, and I'm trying to hype him up. I'm dancing like, come on, bring it, dude, bring it. And it was just an amazing feeling that I got. Like, it was just one of those amazing feelings. Like, man, this is all happening. Like, this is all happening. And once we had it just so happened, you know what, a drummer had stopped by this. You know, there was always musicians stopping by the studio. Happened to be a drummer that stopped by. So I'm outside, they're doing their thing. Next thing I know, I got a drummer on the track. So we got a drummer. And they're mixing the songs.
You're leading the band. Come on in.
The song starts coming together. It was beautiful. And then Ronnie started inviting, you know, people were showing up. Ronnie was starting inviting. The studio started calling people like, dude, we got this new guy in the studio. He's like unreal. So people were coming by, and, you know, I like to work. I don't like to work like that. I like to work just the people that are working in the studio, and that's it, so we can concentrate on what is it.
Right.
No distractions. But I didn't, so I tried to do my vocals that night. It wasn't sounding good, you know, it was my first time. There was a lot of people there. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure to perform my best. And when I feel like that, I usually can't lock in. Right. So they said, you know what, take the instrumental, go sleep on it. And so we went back to the studio the next day, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to freestyle the song. Because I couldn't write it, you know. Sometimes I can't write what I want to say. I just have to do it off the top of my head.
Yeah, you feel it.
And that's when the song came about. And so the next day, I get a phone call from Nathan. Nathan was already gone, so Nathan hears the song, the record label owner and the studio owner. And he said, and by the way, the studio was owned by Frank Wright, one of the members of Chicago. He played guitar for Chicago.
Oh,
so they were the owners. They were
the owners. You're really up there.
And this is all I have. Like, I'm mingling with these people. Like, it was like the greatest thing. And next thing I know, I get a phone call. Hey, we want to offer you a record deal. And it was just like, what? Like,
oh my God.
We just did one song. Like, just one song. They were like, nah, man.
Did you collapse? Did you fall? Did you, like, scream in the background?
I did. Yeah, usually when moments like that happen in my life, I always pump my fist up and yell, I did it!
And then you go for a run.
Yeah, then I went running.
But this incredible experience led you to a new one with Ronnie and Tony G.
Oh, well.
Because this is coming out, this new song.
New song is coming out on Friday, midnight a.m. on Friday.
Insomnia Hour Intermission.
Levántense, 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 levántense. It's the rhythm of the beat on a tropical beat. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. You're looking so fly, yeah, you blow my mind. Levántense, and I'm gonna take you home, just roll with me. I promise I'll take you to ecstasy. Yeah, I'll blow your mind, I'm one of a kind. Levántense, I'm gonna take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Levántense, I'm gonna take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, creamy skin, no silky thighs. I wanna take you home. Levántense, looking so pretty with your makeup did. You're at the party, at my crib. I wanna take you so high. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. On the beach, captivated by the beautiful scene. Yeah, we making love to the ocean breeze. Levántense, and we watch the sunrise. It reflects off your eyes. You're so beautiful, baby. Yeah, I'm hypnotized. I can't let you go. Sexy mama. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Levántense.
It's Survive.
Why is tell me all about the title. Like, why is it Survive?
Well, so this is the first time I'm going to be describing this. Why is it called It Survive?
Because you're speaking with an author, so you got to do it.
So when they played the song, we were at Ronnie's ranch at the recording studio at Chateau Relaxo, and Tony, was playing guitar, but Tony said, "You know what? Let me take over. Let me drive the car here for us." And he starts playing these instrumentals that he had, beats that he had made. And I mean, he's like, every one was good. And then the first one that I heard, though, was the one I wanted to do, but then they played the instrumental, the It Survive, and that one was like, whoa, this is like on some reggaeton. This is like on something different.
Which you love, yeah.
Yeah, so right away, the hook came to me, levantense, which means get up, because that was the first thing that came out of my mouth when I heard the beat, levantense. And I'm like, did I say that right, Tony? He's like, yeah, you said it right. He's like, so what you got, And so I was trying my best to write verses, but then Ronnie said, how about you just write down your ideas and then flow out of you what you're feeling in the moment off those ideas. So this whole song, the only part that was really written down was just the chorus, which is very simple, but the verses were just ideas, and I just spit it off the top of my head, and it was like in the moment. Yeah. In the moment, if I said something and the timing wasn't right, I'd forgot what I said because I was coming it was like spiritual. It was just all coming out of me, out of my soul, and
right.
And Ronnie's like, I did my vocals, and I was nervous too because Ronnie's like, Tony G can be a hard ass with people, and he's made people cry in the recording booth, and I'm just thinking, what the hell is he going to do to me? It make me
You're
cry.
Like, can I just cry spiritually?
But see, the thing was, and this is the thing, man, like I worked really great with Ronnie, and when I working with Tony G was like working with another Ronnie. It was like when I'm in these positions where I'm working with these great producers and musicians, it's just like I showed up, I came to work, and I can hang at these guys' level because I've been doing this long enough, and I've been in enough studio situations. So Tony was just like, we finished the vocals maybe in about an hour and a half, adding the doubles, the ad-libs, like everything. We finished real quick, and then Ronnie was done. Ronnie came back in. He was just like, winner, this is a winner. We got a winner.
What part of the song do you like the most? Like which verse? Can you sing a verse of it?
Okay, so I like all the verses, but probably the last verse. They're all, it's like the way I explained the song was like I laid out a picturesque story where you can visualize it in your mind. That's one thing. That's the way that I write music is I write it so people can visualize what I'm saying, not just hear it, but they can visualize it. And it was like a story. Like the last verse says, 3 a.m., sex on the beach. You know what? 3 a.m., sex on the beach. Captivated by the beautiful scene, and we making love to the ocean breeze. Levantense. And we watch the sunrise, it reflects off your eyes. You're so beautiful, baby. Yeah, I'm hypnotized, I can't let you go. Levantense.
Oh my God.
And I'm still tripping, like, how did that even just come off the top of my head?
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
It's a gift, it's just a gift, and I've learned to appreciate it and love that I have, that God gave me this gift where I can do this, that I can write visually for people, that I can flow with songs, that I'm able to work with big time producer people. I mean, it's just when you realize what you're blessed with, and you don't take it for granted, and you're like, okay, I got this, I'm going to keep doing it. And I think making those decisions back, like when I lived in San Diego, like, man, I'm not supposed to be a mortgage officer. I'm supposed to be on the stage.
Right, it's a gut feeling.
All that stuff, it like makes sense. Like, man, this has been a part of me for a long time. And I didn't start playing guitar till I was 19, and I'm not some guitar prodigy who started when they were 3 years old, and I really don't know a majority about music theory and the way stuff goes, but I can still keep up, and that's...
I think sometimes not everybody needs to be technical. It's not about technique, it's your emotion. And people forget that, you know, it's all about the emotion. If you become too technical, you get detached from the reality of your emotion.
Exactly.
And I think just your conduit is great, which I know we didn't really tap much into it. Your pros and cons of your mental hardship.
Pros and cons. So the pro
is, like, what did it help you as a musician, and the cons, what did...
Well,
hinder?
Right when I got that record deal, I signed 15 days later. I signed my record deal. I was really starting to get I think I got so wrapped up into the situation at that time that my mind was working a lot faster than it normally did. And I started it triggered this stuff. But see, this is what it triggered, what had been going on for years, all through the 2000s. I mean, it started getting really crazy starting in 2005, 2006. Like it was there. It would just only come out at certain times, and it started coming out again. But I was so wrapped up in this whole record deal, and you know, Nathan's telling me you got to get deeper. So I'm trying to get as deep as I can to myself to produce these songs, and I was kind of obsessed with this one song that we were going to go into the studio and do. And it was just like the song is a message, like the song came from the spirits. You know, I was really getting really out of it with mentally. And we go to work in the studio, and I mean, at that point I was hearing voices, I was having hallucinations, but I still showed up to the studio because I never told any about it.
Are those like intrusive thoughts?
Just really paranoid, just thinking like death was chasing me. You know, like the boogeyman was chasing me everywhere I went. That's how it felt.
That's definitely stress.
And scary. It was really scary. I was really scared because I thought something was going to happen to me. I thought something was going to happen to my family. And then I started trying to put numbers together, and these weird conspiracies were, you know, all in my mind. But that's where it was. It was all in my mind. I never expressed this stuff to the woman, you know, my son's mom. You know, I didn't express this stuff to her. I didn't express it to nobody. It was just, I was afraid to tell anybody. And we went into the studio, and I'm in a full-on freaking hallucination. It didn't stop me from working. That was the thing. Like, it still trips me out. Like, man, I was so laser-focused that day in the studio that we ended up doing like 3 songs. And while I'm in this whole delusional state, and Ronnie didn't even find out until he heard about it in one of my interviews last year. Like, you had all that going on? Like, I thought you were just pissed because people showed up to the studio. It's like, no, man, I was really delusional. MTV.
You're like, I wish it was that.
You know, the Los Fabuloso Cadillacs were there from Argentina. They showed up because they had the MTV Video Awards for Latino in LA, and they came to the studio because they knew Ronnie. And I'm over here thinking, well, they're here at the studio because they came to steal my song. You know, they're here to steal my music. You know, and I was getting like I wanted to clench my fist because I was in like those fight or flight modes. And we ended up getting the songs done, and I came back to the apartment. We had our songs done, and then MTV showed up to interview Los Fabuloso Cadillacs, and they were going to interview me. Like, I was really buzzing. And then at that time, my name was really buzzing, and they wanted to interview me. And I ended up kicking everybody out of the studio. I told everyone they had to go home. I need to work.
Oh my God!
Wow,
and you didn't even know you were like in a blindness. I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize that MTV was there. All I was focused on was that Los Fabuloso Cadillacs were here to steal my music. Wow.
And
what happens when you come out of that day?
How did I come out of it? So a couple days later, I really felt like I needed to make amends with people that I felt like I did dirty. Felt like all this is happening because I'm feeling some kind of guilt for something that I did, and maybe if I make amends, maybe it will go away.
Right.
And it wouldn't go away. It's like nothing is making this go away. Usually it would go away on its own, and this was progressing for like a month now. And I went up north. I came to Oxnard from Newport Beach. I went to Oxnard to visit my family. I brought my son's mom. My son wasn't even an idea at the moment. You know, it was just, we had just started dating, and you know, she's telling my mom, like, dude, he's not sleeping, like something's going on with him, you know, and I didn't know what to do. And we went back to Orange County, and, you know, I had this fear that somebody was after me. You know, somebody was out to get me, and it could have been a Monday. I think it might have been a Monday. My son, you know, she had went to work. Her name is Jolene. She went to work. I left with my dog at 4 in the morning as soon as the sun, or like about 5 in the morning as soon as the sun was coming up, because I was having like these such vivid hallucinations. Like, I thought these people, we went camping, I thought these people from the campground followed me and they were living in the apartment. Like, just crazy stuff. And I was hallucinating that I was hearing guns being cocked, like shotgun, like, and this was all hallucination going on. And I left my apartment with my dog. We walked all the way up Harbor Boulevard, all the way to Santa Ana.
Wow.
And I didn't have my dog on a leash because I was like, well, if something happens to me, my dog can get away. Like, I was just, and if I'm out in the open, nobody can do anything out in the open. You got to imagine, I'm in a full-on psychosis here. Like, there was a helicopter flying around, and I'm thinking the government's after me. I'm thinking it's just the craziest thoughts.
Your sensory was overload.
And my parents were telling me to just walk to a hospital, but I didn't know. I thought I needed an exorcism. That's what I thought I needed, was an exorcism.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but
I almost went to the Catholic Church, like just showed up, you know, and I was like, and then my son's mom, she found me on Harbor Boulevard. You know, she had asked, where do you take somebody that's not doing good like this? And they took me to a college hospital in Costa Mesa. And the nurse asked me, you know, like, and I wouldn't talk to anybody because I'm thinking I'm going to get injected with something and they're going to kill me. And this is all going on in my mind. And they tell me, do you want to hurt yourself? And I told them, this was my response, I'll kill somebody before they kill me. And then that was the end. Next thing I know, there's an ambulance showing up. They shackled me to a chair, and I was taken off in the ambulance. I had no clue where I was going. And I show up, they drop me off at this place, and I'm sitting in this waiting room, and I'm just freaked out.
Right.
I'm just in this waiting room at this mental hospital, and I'm just freaked out because I don't know what's going on. And it was really, you know, I thought somebody put voodoo on me. Like, I thought the craziest of the craziest things you could think of were going through my mind. So I hadn't slept for about, I don't know, maybe slept like 10 hours in 5 days. Because I wanted to stay awake, because if I fell asleep, I couldn't sleep. I was having these nightmares that were waking me up like every 5 minutes, and my mind was just gone. They get me, next day I wake up, I'm in a room in the mental hospital, but I still don't know I'm in a mental hospital. I thought I was at some kind of rehab facility.
Right.
And a guy, my name is Abel. My given name is Abel. So this is the crazy. So you imagine you're tripping like you're on drugs. You're just tripping hardcore. This guy comes into the room. His name tag says Abel. So it's like, okay, this is even weirder now. Why is there a guy named Abel here where I'm at right now? And he says, hey, you're going to have to pull your pants down. We got to give you an injection. So I'm just like, wait, pull my pants down? What?
What?
Like, what's going on here?
Right.
And they were like, and so the staff starts coming in, and I start fighting them, throwing them off me, like, no. Well, they pulled down my pants, gave me an injection, and I woke up. Last thing I remember was fighting them, and then feeling the injection. They gave it to me in my butt, you know, on my butt cheek, and then I wake up, and I wake up normal. Wake up back to myself, like, holy shit. That was one of those episodes that would happen before, but this time it happened for a month. And it finally all came to the realization, like, wait a minute, I'm okay. Like, wait, this isn't I thought someone put witchcraft on me. I thought there was a voodoo curse on me. I thought I needed an exorcism, all these things. And then I wake up normal. I'm like, wait a minute. That was just one of those episodes I've been having. And
so what did they diagnose this as?
First diagnosed, it didn't help that when my parents showed up to the mental hospital, they told them, they had my, Jolene searching my apartment. They thought I was on hardcore drugs, but I wasn't.
Got it.
And so they tell, the medical staff at the mental hospital, oh, he's probably on drugs. So,
Gotta love
so
parents.
they didn't find any drugs in my system, and, Jolene, my parents they put me on a 5250. They wanted to keep me for like 3 weeks. And, the facility was pretty crazy. It wasn't the best of facilities that I was at. And she had went, and there was a judge involved, and she showed up, and she said, you know what, he needs to get out of here. He's got to get out of here, and I'll take care of him. And this whole time, I don't even know what's going on with my dog, And so they let me out of the hospital. She shows up with my dog. My dog comes running out of the car. I'm like, holy man, can you imagine how traumatic this was for my dog? Walking down Hall, like all the stuff that happened. And my dog was so happy to see me. It was just like, whoa, this something's wrong. The realization that something was wrong. Something's wrong with me.
I am so glad that you were able, and people surrounding you, support team, were able to pull you out of that traumatic experience.
Yeah, it was.
You're definitely an inspiration. I know the hardship, but just inspiring the fact that you can, give to people an idea of both the happiness of your life and the traumatic so givingly.
It was really, to finally be, like, I felt like I was on top, with my career, with my music, and I felt like it was happening so fast. And I felt like such a disappointment. Like, I felt like man, maybe this is God's way of telling me this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. It was one of the most heartbreaking things in my life because, I was good. They I left the hospital with meds. They told me, take these meds, don't drink, don't smoke pot, don't do anything. It's like, okay, I won't do anything. If it means that I'm going to be okay, then I won't. If it means that I'm still going to be okay without any of that stuff, then I'm going to listen to what the doctors are telling me.
Yeah. And you did it.
But it wasn't until, I had actually got asked to perform at the House of Blues that Sunday. So I got out of the hospital on a Friday, and I'm performing at the House of Blues on Sunday. But I'm feeling good because I'm on meds,
Yeah.
I went out there. It was like it felt like the biggest, reward. Like, man, after everything I went through, I'm on this stage. There's people here at this place. Like, I'm at the freaking House of Blues.
Right?
And it was really hard on Jolene at the same time because she didn't know what to feel. Like, I don't know how it is, like, from your partner's perspective, your lover's perspective.
I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of got the impression that she had hyped me up, people at her work, like, it was a really big deal, and I felt like such a disappointment, and she felt like she was embarrassed, like, man, this guy's, you have to accept that you're a broken person. I'm a broken man, it was something that really affected me for a long time, because when I finally had my first doctor visit out of the hospital as an outpatient, they're thinking, from what my parents said, that it was drug induced. So I don't know what's going on. I feel better. So the doctor's like, okay, you don't need to take meds. You're okay. So they sent me home. I stopped taking meds. Next thing I know, I'm whacked out again within 4 days. Started getting bad again, And Jolene says, I can't deal with this shit no more. I'm taking you to your doctor. That's it. So she went and took me, dropped me off, and I said, you know what, I'll wait until the doctor comes. I basically told the caseworker, it's back. It's back. And so they waited. I saw the doctor, but the doctor didn't put me on the same meds that I was on when I was in the hospital when I was good. He said, take this, because I wasn't sleeping again. I started having these conspiracies and all this other stuff going on. So the medication he gave me, it helped me go to sleep, but it didn't take the
high off of you.
Didn't take the symptoms. Didn't take the symptoms away.
Yeah.
And so for 6 months, I'm on meds that don't work. I was eating a ton because the meds make you, hungry. They make you feel like you're not full.
Yeah, it numbs you. Yeah.
And so gradually I'm putting on weight. Every month I see him, and I'm like, now I'm at 185, and when I saw him, I was about 162 pounds. So I'm about, that's a pretty big weight loss or weight gain in a short amount of time. It wasn't until I got to 210 pounds, and he's like, oh, your weight's out of control. I'm like, dude, well, haven't you been tracking this? It's been going up every time I come here. And
doesn't that amaze you that some medical people do that?
Yeah, it wasn't the best doctor. It wasn't the best doctor, I'll tell you that. He was really creepy. He always creeped me out every time I saw him. And the way he talked, it was just like, man, you should not be a psychiatrist. You're in the wrong field. You need to be doing something else.
Right.
And so he says, okay, I'm going to switch you on a medication that one of the side effects is weight gain is not a side effect. So this is about 6 months. So 6 months later, I'm on this new med. And be it mine, those whole 6 months, I didn't play guitar. When I started getting bad again and I stayed bad, I changed my phone number. Nobody knew how to get in touch with me. The only person I felt like I could trust was Ronnie. And there was times...
He has this compassionate personality, you know?
Yeah, he was the first one to see me out of anybody from the record label. I was in the desert because that's where... my son's family's all from, the desert area in Coachella, and we would go down there to go visit, his grandma, her mom. And we'd go down there for like a couple days at a time, sometimes 5 days at a time. And I called Ronnie, and Ronnie's like, holy shit, dude, you're alive. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm here in the desert, actually. You want to hang out? And be it mine, I'm still on the wrong meds. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell's going on with me. And Ronnie picked me up, and I'll never forget this moment because Ronnie picked me up to go to his ranch. He set up the recording. He was changing his brakes on his truck, and he just let me go at it in the studio, record whatever I want, just have a good time. But when we got to his ranch, he asked me, he's like, so what meds are you on? I'm telling him on this and that, and he's like, well, what do they say is wrong? And I'm like, dude, they're saying I'm schizophrenic. And Ronnie just kind of he didn't break down in tears, but it stopped him in his tracks. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, dude, that he felt it. Like he could feel my sadness behind it, and
yeah.
He gave me a hug and he said, well, don't worry, man, dude, there's several great musicians that deal with stuff like you, man. You're not the only one.
Right.
And I think when that was said to me, and my son's grandma, Jolene's mom had showed me she had put on the movie A Beautiful Mind, and I saw that movie, and then everything just kind of clicked because I was on the new medication. I didn't play for 6 months, but then when they changed the medication, when I gained weight, all of a sudden within about 2 or 3 days, I picked up my guitar, and it blew Jolene's mind. She's like, "You're actually going to play guitar?" And I'm like, I feel like I'm getting better.
Right.
And so I started playing guitar, and next thing I know, I got like 15 songs written,
Oh my
and
God.
I felt better. So as soon as I felt better, I had a brand new phone number, so I called Nathan from the record label. I'm like, dude, you just abandoned us. Like, what happened? And I kind of explained the story. They weren't too emotional about it. It was just whatever. I knew I was just an artist, on that label.
Right.
But I said, hey, you know what? I got a whole bunch of new material. Can I come down and show you? But at that time, we had no money because all the money was, I had a baby, I had a son on the way. So the money was getting put away for that.
Right.
And, Nathan never told me to tell anybody about this. But Nathan said, you know what? I showed him the new songs. He said, you know what? We'll cover your recording time. We'll pay for your studio time, and you just pay us back when the songs are released. So it's like all of a sudden, they're offering the studio to come work, and Ronnie was a part of one of the tracks that we did. We had a drummer, we had a full thing going, and I really felt like, holy man, I'm making a comeback.
Like yourself again, yes.
And I'm making a comeback. It was really
good job, Dylan.
It was one of the toughest. I'm telling you, man. When you feel like that, this is one of the moments that I keep in the back of my mind. I was sitting on the couch, eating Doritos or something, and watching King of Queens. I really loved watching that show, King of Queens. And I really got into Seinfeld because I just thought the artistry behind them being funny in their shows was just amazing.
Right.
I was really just locked into that. But there was this moment when I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute. This can't be the rest of my life. Just watching TV. Am I going to be, is that my story from record deal and everyone back home in Oxnard rooting for me and this whole thing? And then all of a sudden this devastation happens to me. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm not going to just let this shit happen. I'm just going to get fat. Like I used to make jokes about me putting on a lot of weight, you know, and it was just like, wait a minute, this is not me. I mean, I was like, I started thinking like, man, you got into West Point. You graduated college. You know, you surfed. You've done so many things. This is not the end.
I hear your grandfather in your voice right now.
Yeah.
You know, he did his wartime, and he's, you know, seen so many things, and he's pulling you out of that. I mean, you just sound like him in that manner.
And everyone in my family was worried, you know. And then we find out because it wasn't like I needed anybody to take blame for what happened, but it was just a matter of acceptance that this is what goes on. But then I find out, I mean, you know, my great-grandmother was schizophrenic. You know, she had mental health problems. All of a sudden, my cousins started having mental health problems. And everyone's calling me now as if, like, I'm the expert on mental illness. And, like, how can I, you know, so that's when things really started, like, changing. Like, wait a minute. Like, people are calling me because I got through it. They want to know how they can get through it.
And you become their support system.
And, you know, I'll sum it up like this. What I thought was my death sentence actually was my liberation. Because back then, I was a really hot artist. I was a really hot artist. Still am. But back then, it was like, maybe it was not God's plan for it to happen. And maybe this was all planned, that this was supposed to happen so that now you're telling this story. Because back then, I didn't really have a story. You know?
I think he wanted to give you that as a gift. I always say dispositions in your life are not the dispositions, but those are the stepping stones. You know, your wall crumbles, your foundation will, but you're using those foundations to bridge a new life. And I think he gave you that strength to pour out for others who need you and music. Because think about it. You know, people out there suffer, and they need music, and they need people like you to pour your soul, your struggles, your wisdom in that song to survive. And I think that's who you are, Dylan Garcia.
And I just think, you know, and I read this, I think it's like being vulnerable. Like I'm being vulnerable, like telling my story, because people say, you know, you're just a head case, you know, and some people do, but there are those people that see that, man, this guy went through it and look how he came out of it. And even my doctors, like my psychiatrist and my case manager, who's kind of like my therapist, they're just like, man, dude, you're running with it. Like right now, we don't see this. This is not common with all our patients. You know, and I really give credit. So I moved back to Oxnard. So I'm back in Oxnard. This is about 2017. You know, I met my wife, and you know, we planned she was going to come. My wife's from Argentina, and so I said, I'm going to get us an apartment so we can get married and live together. And my dad had said, you know, if you're going to get married to this woman, you can't live here. You have to have your own place. And so then the very next day, I had been on a waiting list for an apartment. They called me the very next day that my name was up on the waiting list to get my apartment. And it was just like, how could we be talking about this yesterday and all of a sudden I'm getting a pad? You know, it was all meant, it was meant for me to marry my wife. Like all these things, you know, it's like all these things were supposed to happen. And back then I wasn't, you know, I was doing okay, but I wasn't at my best, you know.
Yeah.
At a certain point, when you're on the same medication for so long, it doesn't work as good as it does when you first start it. You know, it starts, your body
adapting. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was having, you know, symptoms, and my wife came, you know, she came on a whim, and I was going to have surgery, and she came on a whim. She's like, I'm going to be there for your surgery. And, you know, I wasn't doing good. I was back. I wasn't as bad as I was, but I was still not doing good. And this is about 2017. And all the while, you know, I was working on an album, and my wife came, and And so, she's putting up with my shit because I'm not doing good, and she wanted to leave me like 35 times, because I wasn't doing good. And I ended up having to have a second surgery. I had both my hips replaced. I had one of them, I had the left one done first, and then I had the right one done. And when I had the right one done, I was honest with the surgeon, the orthopedic surgeon, when I went to meet with them. They were really nice people. And I said, hey, look, man, I'm not getting the mental health care that I need, and I'm not getting better. Is there a way, this hospital's in LA that I went to get the surgery, is there a way that you can have a psychiatrist come see me while I'm in the hospital? And this was actually one of the first steps where I was actually owning it. I was going to take action myself to get better. Because my wife deserves me at my best, just like everyone else deserves me at my best. And I put it out there. I had my surgery. I'm in recovery. A psychiatrist comes to see me. I'm explaining what's going on, and he took some blood and came back a couple hours later. Hey, I think I found a couple good matches for you to take that will make you feel better. And he switched my medication in the hospital, and there again, I wake up the next day after my surgery, back to normal. Like, oh, shit, this is what it feels like to be normal again.
You're like, salvation!
And, it was hard because my wife's, all these situations that happened beforehand, it was tough on my wife, and
I can imagine.
And so she's like, my wife get out of surgery, and myself, well, you're not getting off that easy. You're not getting off that easy.
You owe me years of hardship there, compensation, honey.
And so when I came back from the hospital, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better, feeling like, all right, man, yeah, this all worked. I'm in a lot of pain because I was on the road to recovery again from another hip surgery, but I was like, man, thank God I asked for help in the hospital, and I got it, because sometimes all you got to do is ask.
Right.
All you got to do is ask.
But sometimes it's hard to ask.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard.
Sometimes you just need that push, but you had people in your life you wanted to do it for, and that was your push.
So then they gave me a new doctor at the mental health center that I go to here in Oxnard, because I had requested a new doctor for a second opinion. And I'm talking to this doctor, we're getting to know each other, and I'm like, look, man, I got this music career going on, but it's not happening because I'm not 100% upstairs. And I was like, I need help, man. Can you help me? And he's like, okay. So it was a process of trying different medications to get me right. It was about a 3-month process. Mm-hmm. And he finally got it right, because I started having like allergic reactions to the medication, where I don't want to say it's called a dystonic reaction, where the toxicity of the medication builds up so much in your body that it causes muscle spasms in certain parts of your body. So it's happening in my jaw. So my jaw was clamping down, and I literally broke my teeth when I was having these reactions. My teeth were messed up, and we finally found a way to make it stop. And doctor told me, I said, look, man, I need to be at my best. Doctor made a deal with me. He said, dude, I will be here for you, but you got to promise me that you're going to handle it on your end too. You got to start working out. You got to start pushing yourself. Like, yeah, you go walking every day, but how about lifting weights? Do you do that? He started really challenging me to, like, okay, this is what it's going to take. And he taught me the Wim Hof method of breathing. You get an anxiety attack, do this breathing method, it resets your brain, you'll be fine. Like, he really took a different approach to medicine than any other doctor that I had in the past.
Because he cared about your well-being.
And he gave me the option. He said, you can either do it or not. But if you don't do it, I guarantee it, you're still going to be home watching TV, eating food. And that push that came from him, he was my doctor for about another 8 months, but he got me to where I needed to be,
That's
doctor.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy that you gave me insight to your story, your music, your well-being, your family. I think you're such an incredible person, and I wish I could have more time with you. But can you, is there anybody you would like to plug in this,
Yeah, I wanna first off, I wanna give thanks to the man upstairs to always keep taking care of me regardless of the situation. There's always a way out. I want to give thanks to my wife because she's so amazing. She's always pushing me and helping me to do better. And I want to thank my family. I want to thank Ronnie and Tony. I want to thank Ronnie, especially from the bottom of my heart, that he never gave up on me, that he saw something in me that I couldn't see, because now what he saw in me years ago is coming into fruition at this time. And it shows with the song It's a Vibe and the new ones we're working on right now. And it just feels really good. I want to give a shout out and thank you to Audra, because Audra's been so tremendous and awesome.
She's an amazing person.
I love working with her. I feel like we've gotten so much done in as little as 3 weeks than I've probably done in my whole life in regards to my music career. And I'm super grateful that Ronnie introduced me to her. And I'm just a grateful person. You know?
And I am so grateful to make your acquaintance, and I'm so very, very humbled to share your story and your music.
I got really personal with you. I really don't do that too often in interviews, but I felt the vibe that I knew you would tell my story the right way.
I feel people need to understand depth, not just the surface, depth. And that's where I like to go, is your depth, and you did. And I'm so proud of you for sharing that. I truthfully am. I'm going to drop links down at the end of this interview so people can find you. They'll be on the insomniahour.com portfolio, where your picture and your everything about you will be there continuously. And I hope you'll be with us in the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad. Because I think a lot of people see the glory, but they don't know the story.
I love that. You better,
nobody in that story that I told you how I was able to work with Ronnie, because I think a lot of people maybe assume it was free, that like, I think this is what needs to be, that it needs to be clear that when you work with people, everyone needs to get paid. And people will donate their time. Everyone needs to get paid. And there's no easy way around it trying to make it in the music business. There's steps. It's a game, and you got to learn how to play it the right way if you want to stay in it, because if you don't, you'll probably be in and out in about 2 years, just like a lot of people. So if you want to do this, you got to give it your all. You got to stay dedicated. You got to learn the steps, and you got to learn the way the music business works. But once you learn it and you're in it to win it, the universe is abundant.
Well said. Congratulations on your new single. Cannot wait to hear it. I'm definitely going to be playing that in the interview as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha.
There's a sad sort of clanging from the clock in the hall, and the bells in the steeple too. And up in the nursery, an absurd little bird is popping out to say cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Regretfully they tell us, but firmly they compel us to say good